Welcome to a football show, first episode of the 2026 calendar year. Happy New Year, everybody. We are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. I am Braden Gall. That is Nick Suss of the Tennessean. Pay for good journalism. Nick, Happy New Year. Good morning. How are you, sir?
Happy New Year. I am tired, but I guess we all are at the beginning of a new year. We're going to make it through.
I'm jealous of your kind of tired, Nick.
Correct. Different kind of tired.
My children have been out of school since December 19th, but no
Yeah.
one's counting over here at my house. They desperately need to go back to school. So much so. I'd like my office back. Look, Sinkers Beverages did a great job catering and taking care of our holiday needs, whether it was some stocking stuffers on Christmas, whether it was some parties we did. We got together. We got together with some of her family, my wife's family, some of my family. Every time, of course, New Year's Day, lots of champagne yesterday for the college football playoff games, as we had a bunch of people over as well. So just like, it's like gathering after gathering after gathering, and it's good to have Sinkers Beverages to provide all the accoutrement that we needed for those particular gatherings. So dry January is going to be in effect, I think, in my household. But they have lots of really good stuff there. They got mocktails, they got non-alcoholic beers, they've got there's non-alcoholic wines now, which is crazy. I don't know if that's a thing I want to try, but
Grape juice.
Also fair, close enough, I feel like.
Yeah.
And the THC corner, of course, which I don't think that I think that you could still drink the THC beverages and still call it dry January. I think because I think it's just about alcohol. So Sinkers Beverages, everybody. Do you enjoy the college football playoff second round?
I did. I had some fun watching it. I did not see the entirety of Ohio State Miami because I was acting like a young person all night, and the bar I was at during the fourth quarter of that game did not have televisions.
Your wife does not strike me as someone who's like, yes, I would really love to watch college football on New Year's Eve.
No, we were having some fun at some bars that had televisions and some that very much did not. And so I missed a little bit of that one. And obviously the Titans were practicing yesterday during Texas Tech, Oregon. So I only got to saw snippets of that. But I'll say all told, I probably watched 3/4 of the total games.
You didn't miss much in that Oregon Texas Tech
No.
game. Texas Tech's offense was the worst unit left in the tournament of the 8 teams, and that proved out with 0 points. Ole Miss's defense was probably the second worst unit, and they got some big stops in the fourth quarter when they had to get them. So, look, I thought it was great. I thought in general, I think this is sort of what, I know you're a detractor of expansion in general, and sort of I know your stance on on sort of the reasons to expand. I do think that this Final Four is sort of like not like a perfect storm of what the playoff was trying to give us. And we're going to get into Titans. We're going to talk Cam Ward and Jeffery Simmons in the final game against the Jags, but I wanted to start with some college football. Because again, you deserve the credit for Ole Miss being in the Final Four. I mean, every time you leave a beat, that
Correct.
team goes on to compete for national championships.
Very much correct.
Georgia, LSU, and now Ole Miss. So maybe Titans fans need you to leave.
It's been floated to me. Yeah,
that's what they need. I just think it's kind of what not again. I can't decide if it's best case scenario, but I don't think Indiana and Ole Miss are programs that can build teams like this in a different era. I don't think you can build half your roster, half your starting 22 or 44 or whatever through the portal, and then make it to number 1 or to number 4 or whatever they are right now. Miami being a 2-loss team that didn't even play in its conference championship game as a 10 seed would never have had an opportunity to get to this point. Oregon's kind of the only one that's like traditionally like, oh, they were a great team last year, this year, and good enough to be here, and they are here now. And so it's a different story. And I don't know if it's better or worse, but it's different. And I think that's what the playoff was trying to give us to some degree.
Look, and we don't have to get into it's too early in the morning for me to like quote Neil Postman and talk about entertainment theory and all this stuff. But like fundamentally what we're talking about here is there is a difference between what is entertaining and what is good for you. And when you are talking about an entertainment product, which sports are supposed to be, it would be intuitive to try and maximize the entertainment value of something that is entertaining. So, if the entire goal of this enterprise is to entertain the masses, this is an inherently good outcome because we have come up with the most entertaining thing that will have the broadest appeal for people who want to see something new. So I am not in any way detracting that. But I would say, for as much as we call this an entertainment enterprise, we take it very seriously. And if we are going to spend hours and hours and hours of our lives analyzing and discussing and breaking down the serious thing that we just saw, the fact that 3 of the 4 teams remaining had absolutely no claim at the end of the season, there would be no one in the country who said, "Hey, I think that's the best team in the country." And the fact that 3 of the 4 teams alive, nobody would have said that.
I think half. I think I would have said Oregon.
Nobody would have said Oregon was the best team in the country. Because anyone who said Oregon was the best team in the country would be met with, they lost to Indiana and Indiana's undefeated.
That would have squelched that. I know what your point is around that, and I don't disagree with your point. I personally had a different opinion of Oregon than many people. I thought there were 4 teams that could win the national championship, and Texas Tech was not one of them.
Oh, sure.
I thought Oregon was one of the teams that I don't think we knew that Indiana or Ohio State or Georgia. I think those 3 plus Oregon are the 4 that I would have said any one of those teams has a case to be made that they're the best team in the country.
Okay.
But your point, I think, is what I'm trying to kind of agree, but also broaden it a tiny bit.
I understand what you're saying. I think that there's a fair argument to be made for Oregon. And look, Oregon's argument is incredibly similar to Ole Miss's argument. 1 loss to a team that won the conference you're part of, beat everybody else on your schedule. Ole Miss has now beaten every team on its schedule. Oregon, if they beat Indiana, will have beaten every team on its schedule. Understandable.
Right.
If these teams go the distance, good for them, deserving title championships. Miami, we'll see. But deserving versus should it have been, the reality here is we have spent the last 20 to 25 years of entertainment allowing audience to dictate what matters instead of allowing creators and power brokers to dictate what matters. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, this is not a complaint.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. So this is like, this is the points versus a head-to-head fantasy argument.
Yes.
This is rotisserie in baseball or points in football versus head-to-head, which is, do you want the general manager who did the actual best job drafting and managing a team to the most success, most points in football, most, balance of whatever whatever you'd call that? Or do you want a little bit of chaos and a little bit of unpredictability and a little bit of like luck involved in your fantasy tournament, in your fantasy playoffs? Do you want the playoffs? And I think that's ultimately what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I do think that this particular college football season isn't as, I don't think it's fair to say automatically at this point, oh, the best team in America is not going to win the championship. I think most years, had Georgia and Ohio State, we thought were the best 2 teams maybe in the country, potentially, odds-on favorites to win the whole thing, that if those 2 teams had lost in another tournament format or in conference championship games when there was a BCS, we would all say, well, maybe the best team didn't win the championship. I'm not there yet. I agree. If Miami does, then I think that's fair. But I don't think the whole point of the playoff is to decide Indiana, Oregon, and Ole Miss, or Georgia and Ohio State, who are the best teams, who actually is the best team. And I don't think you can call yourself, like Ohio State and Georgia have an argument to be made that they're the best team in college football this year. And yet they didn't make the Final Four. And that's 2 losses for both of them. And so, this is where we are.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of torn on it. I think had there been a dominant, overwhelming 2019 LSU, 2021, 22 Georgia, maybe one of those USC Pete Carroll teams or, one of the Saban Alabama teams, had there been a dominant elite number 1 team that just slipped up and made a mistake, then I might feel differently about this. But I still think there's a chance that Oregon and Indiana are the 2 best teams in America, or Ole Miss and Indiana are the 2 best teams, which is an insane thing to say out loud, by the way.
Yeah. And for the people who've heard me complain about this on the show for the last couple of months, I want you to know, once the playoff starts, I don't care. Like,
yeah, the games are kicked off.
My issue is with the fact that there are this many games. My issue is not with the fact that, there was an upset. Ole Miss beat Georgia. And if you look at post-game win probability, Ole Miss outplayed Georgia 97%. Like, Ole Miss won that game. Ole Miss was the better team that day. Good for them. You went out and you won the game. That's how tournaments work. I'm not over here still 15, 16 years later complaining that the 2010 Giants won the World Series. I understand how wild cards work, and they won as a wild card. I'm complaining that the baseball schedule is so changed in October that teams that are built the way they are can win despite not being that good in the regular season. I will complain about what the postseason process is. But once the postseason starts, these teams are winning the games. And there is absolutely nothing I can say, oh, Ohio State was better this year than Miami. They were. Ohio State was better than Miami.
Yeah,
Miami beat them. Okay.
Yeah, and I think, like, honestly, the team that I still think has the biggest complaint is Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame was worse than Miami or some of these other teams that might still be alive. Texas Tech, I don't know. I just sat down and watched the Oregon Texas Tech game, and we had a bunch of people over, and he goes, man, I kind of like, one of my buddies was like, I think I kind of like Texas Tech, and I was like, I don't think they have ever played a team like this all year.
No,
I don't think they don't know what this is going to be like. Defensively, they have not played any teams like the teams that are left. Frankly, Indiana, Georgia, Ohio State, all the teams that are left, other than maybe Ole Miss, although, again, they got stops when they needed to in the fourth quarter. Look, it was the first round gave us, I think, what we should have expected. I know you and I haven't really talked about this, but like a team went on the road and pulled kind of a minor upset in a bracket where they never would have had a chance before. Miami over A&M. You had blowouts over the G5, who belonged in the tournament based on the format. The outcome doesn't change the value of the team being there. And now you have things that we've never seen before either. So I think it's giving you stuff that we've never seen before. And just, again, the fact that it's Indiana destroying Alabama in the Rose Bowl and that Ole Miss beating Georgia isn't really all that fluky, and that they're 60 minutes from a national championship game for the first time in both schools' history. It's just weird. It's just weird to get our heads around. But they are products of the new sport. They are products of the new rules. And Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama were the three teams that were left in the tournament going into this round that were built in the traditional way, which is like 3 to 5 players in their top 35 or 40 were portal players. The vast majority were recruits. Indiana and Ole Miss, those are teams that are built, almost half of their starting players are from the portal. And Miami and Oregon are kind of in between. They're like a third of their players are built in the portal. So this is 4 teams built in very different ways than we've ever seen before. And it doesn't make them less worthy of being here, meaning they'd be a worthy national champion. Certainly Indiana is, unequivocally. I think Oregon and Ole Miss have a very good claim, to your point, they would have beaten the teams that they lost to. Miami's the only anomaly in all of this, and they're hard to root for.
But since there's a lot of conversation about Ruben Bain specifically in the comments, since we're in Nashville, touch a little bit on how exciting this Miami defense is to watch. It's not just Bain. Mesidor is incredible. The slot corner, whose name I'm blanking on, unfortunately, right now. Scott is that his name?
Scott's the kid who picked it off and ran it back for a touchdown. There's
guy who you should hear his name on day 2 this year. He's going to be a slot corner. He's a guy who, if the Titans are looking for a replacement for Roger McCreary, that's a guy I would look at pretty quickly. It's a really intense defense. I give Cristobal a lot of credit for the mentality that Miami has kind of rediscovered of, we're just going to play bully ball. We're Miami. I like that worked. They have a shot. This Ole Miss Miami game is going to be a weird toss up, strength on strength, offense versus defense. Ole Miss has beaten Carson Beck before, but Ole Miss, I don't know if they've played a pass rush like this all year. We'll see how Trinidad Chambliss can withstand it. It's going to be really fun.
There's always a play, and I don't know, these weird things stick in my mind. There was a play, Ohio State and Michigan, a couple of years ago, where it was snowy, and early in the game, and I don't think it was Mullings, actually. I don't think it was Mullings, but somebody, I can't remember who it was. It was a running back for Michigan. Just kind of, he goes, simple run play early in the game, goes up the middle, and just like absolutely destroys. I don't think it was Caleb Downs, but maybe it was. Just destroys the safety. Picks up like 9 yards. Not a big play. But I just was looking at that going like, man, there's a mentality difference here between these two teams. And Sonny Styles is an elite player. He's an elite linebacker who is going to be a first-round draft pick, maybe the best off-ball linebacker in this class. I have plenty of Titans fans in my mentions saying, man, I sure would love to have any of these guys on Ohio State's defense.
Yeah.
Totally fair. But Mark Fletcher lined him up about early in the second quarter on that game and just Yeah, Sonny Styles has not missed a tackle the entire
0 missed
season.
tackles on 400 plus snaps.
0. Mark Fletcher sized him up and ran through his face. Like beginning of the second quarter. And I'm sitting there and I look at we're at a gathering and I look at a buddy of mine. I go, Ohio State's not ready for that. and they normally are, which is what made it so different. And to your point, I think I would pick Miami right now because of how physically they are playing the game.
They're playing well.
Their defense ran through Texas A&M. They ran through Ohio State, and I don't know if Ole Miss's offensive line or their personnel can this is going to be a major physicality test for Ole Miss. I kind of like Miami actually.
I was talking about this with Easton Freeze the other day. I was pitching him a stat that there's no way to ever actually do, but
send him on a goose chase.
I want to come up with a stat when you're evaluating players called the noticeability factor, which is just you are watching a game. You are not watching it for scouting purposes. Right. You are watching a game live. And at the end of every play, you pause the game and you write down, who did I notice that play?
Yeah.
And I would venture that Miami's star players have incredible noticeability factor.
Yeah.
You do not have to look for Ruben Bain to find Ruben Bain on a play.
Tony.
The flip side of that, like Arvell Reese, I've watched like 7 Ohio State games this year, and I don't remember him at all.
No, I agree.
I understand that he's an incredible prospect, but that noticeability score is much smaller than Tony, who it's different.
It would help. It would help if he was playing the position he's going to play in the NFL.
Sure.
But I agree. I think you notice Caleb. You notice Caleb Downs. You notice Sonny Styles. You don't notice Reese as much. I think Kenyatta Jackson, you notice plenty.
You notice Igbenogson. Like, there's a lot of guys you notice.
Yeah, sometimes Igbenogson for the wrong reasons.
For sure.
But no, it's like I was impressed with Miami's physicality in their playoff wins. I'm impressed with Shannon Dawson, who's the offensive coordinator, who has called really good games and made really good adjustments against 2 great defenses in hostile environments. Like, I give Miami a ton of credit for being here. They deserve it. They set the tone, and I think they're going to do it again against Ole Miss. That's my feeling on this. I have a very strange, like, I know I'm higher on Oregon. Like, I almost picked Oregon was my number 2 pick behind Georgia to win the whole thing, and I'm getting less confident in that after watching Indiana play. There's no reason for Indiana to lose a game. No. Like, there's really just not. And so my buddies were at the Rose Bowl, and they're texting me and they're like, is this a real thing? Like, am I watching reality? Is this actually happening? Please confirm that this is actually happening on your television. I was like, yeah, man.
If you guys ever find yourself growing tired of hearing people around the Titans preach complimentary football, and you're like, well, isn't that just good football? Well, isn't complimentary football just playing well? Right. Watch Indiana. That is what they mean by complimentary football. Everything that Indiana does is targeted to be done that way. They do everything as efficiently as it is designed to be done. And it just works because they are never off schedule, because they are never behind where they want to be. They give up those 2 sacks at the start of the game, and it's like, oh, what's this? Truly no reaction to it. Just come in, steamroll them the way you're supposed to steamroll them.
It's because their head coach is a sociopath.
They are such an interesting team. I was talking to my dad before the game started on Wednesday or wherever. For what it's worth, he went 0-4 this weekend with his picks. But he was like,
he's like a team that gets a first round bye.
Yeah. And he was talking about the Alabama-Indiana game, and he's like, I don't know, just the way Alabama played against Oklahoma, the talent advantage, all the 5 stars, all this stuff. I think Alabama's got a shot. And I said, look, the way I've seen Indiana play this year, better chance Indiana wins by 30 than Indiana loses. And then they won by 35 against the most talented team in the country.
This is what's crazy. On paper, there was no reason for Alabama to be competitive in the game. Yeah. On paper. Even on paper. There was no reason. Look, I think Indiana, Oregon they're probably the 2 best teams in the country right now. And so the winner is going to be my pick to win the whole thing. If Indiana gets there, I don't think they're held back from being the first. Can you believe it? Indiana's going to be the first ever 16-0 team if they were to do that. That's the most insane thing I've ever said covering college football. Anyway, Happy New Year. I hope everybody had fun. I think the playoff has given us what we wanted as a group, not maybe everybody specifically, but it is new teams doing new things. It's including more people. There are now different and new and inventive paths to get to a national championship, and it's made the national championship more approachable and more accessible for more teams. And you may not love that, but I do think that's good for the game, and I think that makes it fun. So let's see what happens in the final. I'm going Miami, and Miami Oregon would be a really good national championship game. But so would Ole Miss and Indiana. So we'll see what happens. I'll take Indiana and Miami. That would be my pick to make it.
I won't make a pick quite yet because I think I'd go Indiana Ole Miss right now. But I'll leave you guys with this in the comments, and Braden might be able to get it immediately. But just a fun trivia to think on while we talk about the Titans. Since the BCS started in 1998, there have shockingly only been 3 instances where the national championship was played between the SEC champion and the Big Ten champion. Again, that will not happen this year because Georgia lost. But what are the 3 instances of the SEC champion and the Big Ten champion playing each other in the national championship game?
Well, Florida and Ohio State in 08, I believe. Troy Smith versus Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
Or no, 06. Was it 06 Ohio State? It was 06.
It was 06, yeah.
06. Chris Leak was the starting quarterback. Ted Ginn returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown and broke his leg in the celebration. And then Florida scored 41 unanswered points after that. Let's see here. Big Ten versus SEC. Alabama, Ohio State in 2020.
Correct.
Okay. What's the other one?
07 LSU, Ohio State.
LSU, Ohio State. Okay. 07 doesn't count because neither of those teams belonged in that championship.
And 2020 doesn't count because Ohio State played 4 games that year. So yeah, doesn't happen that often.
I have gotten I've gotten multiple text messages about dry January not including THC. Of course it does, you idiots. It's about alcohol. If you don't drink alcohol, then you're going dry, and THC is allowed in that process. Plus, you can buy it at Sinkers Beverages because Sinkers Beverages is the best liquor store in the city.
We get very different texts during the show.
5 times.
People texting you about THC, and I get texts about geeky, nerdy stat stuff. Just different audiences, different friendships.
Does cannabis count for dry January? Yeah, that's right. We get very different text messages. This is about the college football thing. Thanks Wikipedia, Braden. For I couldn't even get to the Google answer before. Yeah, look, I'm a college football nerd. You guys know that. And Nick can rattle off who Chris Johnson's offensive line was in 2008 or whatever.
I could probably think about it.
Okay, all right. So I want to get into just how. I don't think the game against Jacksonville is going to change our opinions. Should not. Let me rephrase that. Should not change our opinions about any number of things we have decided over the course of the Titan season. If it's Cam Ward should have been the first pick, I don't think the Jags game should change your opinion on that. If it's Jeffery Simmons has become a new player and a different guy and has matured into the best version of himself, I don't think this game changes that opinion. The growth of the young rookies around Cam Ward, Mike McCoy not being a coaching option, whatever it is you settled on, I don't think Jacksonville and this particular game should change that. But I do think it can absolutely cement some stuff and make you feel good about some of the stuff that you maybe have settled on. This team has been very different over the last 4 games than it was in the first 12. There's no question. They're 2-2 just like that. And as Paul Karski wrote on his website, on his story, he's very fed up with and incredulous around all the context we're adding to everything now in the NFL, this win and this loss. And it's just sometimes just take the stats for what they are. And they went 2-2. Cam Ward's numbers are way better. Their offense is scoring 24 points a game more, 24 points in 4 straight games. They are clearly a better football team in these last 4 games. Anything going to change that opinion for you? Anything going to can you see any of those narratives changing with a Jacksonville matchup on Sunday?
Narratives, sure. Opinions, no. Narratives can change because we can talk about whatever we want to talk about. When I think about what's the value of this game and what's the value of this last 4-game stretch, 5-game stretch, whatever it is, I'm trying to think about what actually matters. And we've said all year, this is about development. This is about being better in December than you were in September, which the Titans have done. This is about proving that this young core can be vital in the future when there's more talent around them. And so I spent a little bit of this week trying to identify, okay, on a micro level, who has developed this season? Because we know Cam got better. That's rookie stuff.
Yep.
We know a lot of the rookies got better as the year went on. That's rookie stuff. But I was going around the roster and I'm thinking, okay, so Chig got better as the season went on.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of
Cedric Gray.
I'm building to this.
Okay, I was going to say
Cedric is the long part of this story.
Sorry.
But yeah, there were a couple of other guys, and now that we've spoiled it, I'm going to talk about Cedric here. I'm going to talk about Cedric. This is a Cedric conversation. So I talked to Frank Bush yesterday about like, hey, your guys are developing. Where's that come from? Like, what is development actually on a micro level? And he used a metaphor of like, a lot of times people look at a Ferrari and say, wow, that's a cool Ferrari. But somebody development minded looks at a Ferrari and says, where are the dents? Where are the scratches? Where are the blemishes? And when you have that development mindset, which some of these players seem to have, it's about not seeing yourself as the Ferrari. It's about seeing yourself as the blemishes that need to be weeded out. And so I go to Cedric after Frank says this, and I kind of ask him, hey, do you have an example of this happening? Because I've heard you and I've heard Cam and I've heard all these young players say like, oh, our focus is don't make the same mistake twice. And Cedric starts laughing and he goes, yeah. The first time we played the Colts, I gave up a touchdown pass on a throw where I just totally biffed. Where the situation was there was an underneath route and Cedric jumped the underneath route and they went over the top of him and he totally fell for the eye candy and it went over it. And he's like, okay, I just told myself, don't fall for that again. And so I kind of have to ask him, like, it's just that simple. Just be smarter, be better. And he kind of laughs. He's like, people think this is rocket science. Like, if you know what to do, do it.
It's muscle training and eye training and brain training. Yeah.
It's difficult. It's very physically straining. But if you know what to do, figure out how to do it. And he says, look, there have been many times the rest of the season where somebody's run that underneath route and I've seen the eye candy and I've thought, no, that's the distraction. Don't let them beat you over the top. And you can process that in the moment and you can get better at it. And that does not mean he's a perfect player because he fixed that one thing. But the ability to fix the thing that you're struggling with is development. And when I watch this Week 18 game, it's stuff like that I'm going to look for. Cam Ward and the interceptions and the fumbles and the ball security stuff and the hard agree quote yesterday of he knows how to be Superman. Sometimes we need him to know how to be Clark Kent. Like, that stuff is development, and that is a much longer battle. And I don't think anything that happens in Week 18 is going to have any factor on that because it's going to be the new coaching staff, and it's going to be who teaches Cam how to embrace both sides of himself, who allows Cam to be Superman as often as Cam needs to be Superman, who encourages Cam to be Clark Kent within the confines of being Clark Kent. That's going to be...
Got to have a day job, you know?
Yeah, that's going to be that. And no matter if Hardegree stays, if McCoy stays, if anybody from this coaching staff stays, there's going to be development on that. But if they're all gone, there's going to be somebody who teaches him that. But with the rest of the players, stuff like I'm talking about with Cedric actually can be seen on a game-by-game basis.
Yeah. I think a couple comments here. Ed, if Ward plays well, it further solidifies that when he's seen a defense a second time, he's done well. That Jacksonville game might have been the low water mark of the entire season, honestly. That was maybe the worst game that they played as a group, as a team. But I kind of agree with Big 2033 here. I'm done worrying about every throw from Cam Ward. It's a done deal. He looks good. He's the quarterback moving forward for at least another year, and I'm happy we made the pick. I think that's probably about right. I'm not yet to the, like, I'm happy we made the pick part of that. But otherwise, I think that's actually pretty right. Like, the hay's in the barn on this. They made progress. The story has been written. He was better in the second half, but period, regardless of what happens on Sunday. The offense and the rookies and the quarterback, it all got better. The offensive line, the game planning, the point totals, there's metrics to back up all of it, right? The protecting the football, not taking as many sacks. Like, it's all there. Everything we wanted it to see from him, which is statistical improvement, winning improvement. You know, everything is better. And I think so. The story's already written. Mm-hmm. I do think Jacksonville, like, they certainly have a lot to play for. They want to win the division. And so there's plenty there to still, if you want to add more intel and bank more intel and talk about this, it's fine to come on here on Monday and PK and I will analyze it. And that's fine. But I think I don't, the story, I agree with you and some of the comments, which is that the story is done. The story is written and the progress happened. It's already happened.
He's gotten better. He is
right.
like I wrote this the other day, and it's not necessarily the most comforting thing to hear, but it is still worth remarking on. So when McCoy was comparing Cam's growth this year to Trevor Lawrence's growth that first year that he was in Jacksonville, Trevor's second year, if you look at Trevor from week 9 onward, and if you look at Cam from the bye week onward, I think Trevor improved his passer rating by about 19 points from the start of the season to that second stretch, and Cam's improved his passer rating by about 17 or 18 points. It's arithmetically the same kind of growth. But Trevor improved his passer rating from like 88 to 110, and Cam improved his passer rating from the low 70s to the low 90s.
Right.
The starting point for Cam was so much lower than the average starting point that we still have to sit here and say, look, he hasn't put up number 1 pick caliber numbers, but he has gotten better. And that's what you can ask, is that he has gotten better. But the point he's gotten better to is 23rd or 24th best quarterback in the NFL, which if you rewind the tapes to watch our show back in August, that's what we were saying the starting point needs to be. So he's behind, but he is getting better.
Yeah. I think that's correct. I'd like to hear your reaction to this. It's funny though, says Big 2033. Nobody has downplayed his amazing plays like Tennessee fans and media. I think we're so jaded from years of cool plays from VY and Mariota. Levis's rocket arm. Nothing impresses us. I think nothing impresses the internet anymore. I think like in general, human beings are like that now, especially online. I think Nashville's always been hard to please. It's a very fickle town that'll move from party to party very fast if you aren't really, really awesome and entertaining. So I think some of that's Nashville. I think the plays that stand out are all the plays that Cam Ward made that were sort of absurd, like the one where his knee was down, like the play where his knee was down at the end of the game last year.
I wrote an entire article about how cool that play was.
Like, God, I wish it would have stood just for that reason. Like, it was such a cool play. So I think those things still stand out to us. But if the problem is it's happening, like there always seems to be something just a little off. Like, honestly, his very first completion of his career, where he steps up and does something very similar against a very hard defense on the road, looks to his left at the very last second and dumps it off to Pollard for a long gain. Like, there's going to be plenty of those moments, and it's okay to celebrate them. But to Nick's point, it's hard to celebrate those moments when the whole entire picture is still pretty bleak. One of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL until these last 4 games. So let's see what happens against Jacksonville.
And I will add one little coda on this famous viral tweet that I still love joking about 10 years later. The bit where somebody's like, there's always somebody on Twitter saying something dumb like, oh, but I thought people said Steph Curry couldn't shoot. Like, people will make an argument about anything just to defend their guy. And so, like, I've heard people say, like, oh, I thought you guys were saying Cam was a bust. Nobody seriously has said Cam was a bust.
No,
maybe some loud fans of other teams, or maybe some really defeatist fans of this team, or maybe some people who thought the Titans should have drafted the other guy. But nobody operating in good faith has said, oh, Cam is struggling his first 10 games, he's a bust. That wasn't a thing.
Going on the internet and saying Cam Ward is a bust will send that information further than going on the internet and saying, I think he was disappointing in the first half of the season, but has made a lot of progress, and I'm willing to allow my opinion to be changed by things that happen in 2026. Like, that opinion doesn't go far on the internet. And so we have to realize that I'm with you. Like, not a single human that I know in any form of medium that covers things from TV people to reporters to internet folks to digital podcasters like me to radio hosts have not heard a single person say that Cam Ward is a bust in like an actual professional way. So don't let the internet skew reality on the ground.
If somebody comes up to you on the street and says, hey, I think Cam Ward's a bust, have the conversation with them.
Sure.
If somebody on the internet says it, they are trying to get your goat.
Right. All right. I had a good question in here just because I think it's got a pretty easy answer for me personally. Shawnee said, opinions on keeping Chig and Pollard. I'm in the camp of bring those two back. Pollard upgrades aren't miles better than the upgrades to Tony Pollard are not miles better than him and worth saving $7.5 million just to spend 10 or 12. Look, I get the point on that. I am absolutely here for Chig Okonkwo to come back. I think he is an interesting personality in the locker room. I think he can do things with the ball in his hands after the catch. They've got to pair. I think that they need a third tight end to go with Helm and Chig. but why add another need to your roster when you can he's a serviceable player. They started to use him appropriately, I think, near down the stretch in this final little month of the season. So I would keep Chig. I don't know what to make of Pollard. I think you can do better. I think you can find a replacement, but does the money worth it? I don't know. I don't know there's any guarantee Pollard is fully healthy next year. That would be my concern.
Yeah, I think that obviously Chig has the right to exercise free agency. So we can't just say, what do the Titans do? There's human element here of if Chig wants to go somewhere where he'll be a true number one versus a guy who might have to take a number two role if the Titans continue to emphasize Gunnar Helm in the future. That could be a factor, but my opinion, just me saying what I would like it to look like. Yeah, I don't think you're going to do much better as a number one or number two tight end right now with what's available in free agency than Chig. As for Pollard, I don't know. I tend to think that the best version of a running game in the NFL these days is by committee. Obviously, there are a lot of very good number one running backs, but you can have a very effective running game while paying 3 or 4 guys close to the league minimum rather than shelling out a lot of money for a big name free agent. So Pollard's under contract. Keep him around, pay him what you need to pay him. Go get 2 running backs off the street who are really solid contributors and rotate more. Use a lot of running backs instead of trying to force a feature back.
This might be disrespectful to Pollard. It's not meant to be. But if you asked me, over this last month and a half of the season, the running game has really found itself. Why was that? And who do you give the credit to? I think the offensive line developing would be my first point to make, and being healthy. I think I would say play calling and game planning. So the week of install, and then Bo Hardigree getting better at like knowing how to sequence and stack plays. I think all of that was more important than maybe the actual physical talents of Tony Pollard, which again feels like I'm insulting him, and I'm not. I don't want to take away from his contributions, but the reason the running game is been so much more consistent is I think it's like, hey, the offensive line is getting better. We played some teams that aren't great at this thing, and oh, by the way, the game plans have been really sound. So I don't know. Maybe Cam being better helps that too. So I don't know what you make of that.
I will also add a correction I just got via text, because again, we get different texts during the show. Chig can be transition tagged. Obviously, the Titans could hold on to him that way. Right. They have the rights to do that. Thank you, lurking Jared Stillman. Chig can be transition tagged. That is correct.
We get very different texts from the same person. Stillman's like, you're a fake. You can't call it dry January if you're still drinking THC. I said, yes, it is. Yes, I can. Yes, I can do that. Let's see here. Is there an example of Ward making the crazy throws he's made and ending up a bust? You're saying, like, is there another quarterback that had some of the skills and talents and sort of moments? And I think there's probably a lot more than you think. I think there's probably a lot more of like athletes at this level make plays like this. And sometimes they don't end up as star quarterbacks. So I think it probably happens more than you think.
Yeah, like the first name that came to my mind was Mitchell Trubisky. Like, if you go back and watch Trubisky's first 2 seasons in Chicago, he looked like a guy who was going to be a really solid NFL. Didn't look like a top 10 guy or anything, but like looked like a dude who was going to be solid for a long time. And then the wheels totally fell off. And that happens more than you'd think.
And Mark Sanchez went to 3 straight AFC Championship games.
2, but yeah.
Was it 2? I thought it was 3. And again, had some nice moments, and then also became one of the most memeable plays in the history of the sport with the butt fumble. So I think that happens way more than you think, because to even get an opportunity to start in the NFL, you have to be a pretty elite athlete.
But also, let's not get super duper caught up in the arm talent being the most important thing game, because we've all talked about Joe Milton. Like, we've all talked about Jamarcus Russell. Like, there is a difference between having the capability to make incredibly strong throws across your body and the ability to play football well. So you're right that those are things that very few people can do. But the documented reality is that means you don't need to play that way to be a good quarterback. Just because Allen and Mahomes can do it doesn't mean the other 7 or 8 quarterbacks who can win a championship can do it. And if you can win a championship as Tom Brady 7 times or whatever it is without being able to do that,
Yeah.
You don't need to do that to be good.
Aaron Brooks is a good one of a guy that was just like supremely gifted and kind of never put it all together. Although he had a couple of good seasons in there.
There's also, we mentioned Vince Young earlier in the show.
Right. I mean, if we're going to go back far, I think you can pick a lot of Titans players, honestly. I mean, Jake Locker was very talented. Jake Locker could do really interesting things with his body, and it doesn't mean he was great at playing football. Again, Will Levis, Mariota, like there's lots of guys that we can talk about this with. So yeah, I mean, I agree that there's Trubisky's a good one more recently. I think that's a good one. So we'll see. I mean, honestly, Malik Willis that can do, like, he can have extraordinary plays with huge arm talent and great athletic ability and not really be a starting quarterback in the NFL. So there we go. So, okay. Let's see here. I want to mention Jeffery Simmons because I think Cedric Gray, when we do our like year in wrap up shows in the coming weeks, once we get kind of out of the regular season, the playoffs, the draft, the Senior Bowl, etc., which, by the way, we'll have some coverage for you guys live from Mobile at the Senior Bowl here on the show. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Going down for the second year. Excited about that. David Bailey, I think, going to be there. So interesting to see him. Lots of pass rushers. The year-end thing will be focused on Cedric Gray, to your point. I think Cedric Gray is maybe the biggest development of the entire season for this team, to have a bona fide spot locked down with a potential top 5, top 10 player at his position, and to have that develop over the course of the year, I think is one of the most important stories. But I think Jeffery Simmons, I'm going to take my own, self sort of analyze here, self scout. We could have talked more about Simmons. I don't know what else there should have been said during the year other than, man, that was a great game by Jeffery Simmons, But I think the story of Simmons' season on and off the field, starting the way it started, where, we were standing there talking to him after the fight and having to come out and like he and PK get into it because he doesn't want to talk about it, and to like where he is today and the whole losing weight coming into camp. He is a half a sack away from breaking Jarrell Casey's tackle sack record, which I think matters to him personally because Casey was there as his mentor when he came in. I think it's an extraordinary season for Jeffery Simmons, and I think it needs to be talked about. They're clearly bringing him back, and they clearly should be reworking that contract. I don't know what the numbers should be moving forward, but he's clearly a piece that this organization is building around, and it appears he made that the right decision. He made that the correct call by the team.
Also, regardless of position, and this is one that Braden can give you time to Google because I don't think he'll know it off the top of his head. He is currently tied for the Titans single-season record in tackles for loss, not just among defensive tackles, among any position. And if you guys can think of who he's tied with, real impressive credit. It's going to take you like 20 guesses.
Logan Ryan.
No. He's having the kind of year that genuinely I spent about a half hour the other night looking at every single defensive tackle who's played more than 50% of their team snaps this year. And I added up all of their sacks, tackles for losses, and quarterback hits. And I looked at, okay, Jeffery Simmons obviously, unsurprisingly, leads the group. Jordan, either you read my story or you are a genius. Jason Babin is correct. Jason Babin is the player.
What was the record?
I think 16 tackles for loss in a season. And those don't count. Sacks do not count as tackles for loss in the NFL.
That's terrible. That's terrible. Despite the fact tackling someone for a loss.
Yeah. So Jeff, 46. That is about 2.4 times as good as the median defensive tackle this year. He's playing 2.5 times better than the median defensive tackle when it comes to production and sacks, TFLs, and quarterback hits. For context, Myles Garrett is 2.8 times more effective than the average player at his position. So Myles Garrett, still better, still more productive, but
being in the same breath as Myles Garrett seems like a good thing.
Yeah. In a year where Myles Garrett is having, I think I looked at it. If you look at the 4 times ever that somebody has had as many TFLs as Myles Garrett has this season, it's JJ Watt, Myles Garrett, JJ Watt, JJ Watt. He's having that kind of season. And to, in the same season, be in the same breath as the way Myles Garrett's playing. Yeah. I also looked this up. I put this out. Some of you guys might have seen this on Twitter, but Jeffery Simmons this year, 40 plus stops, which is a stat defined as if an offense fails on a play and you make the tackle, you get a stop. If it's a failure on success rate, you make the tackle, you get the stop. Jeffery Simmons has 40 plus, which is the most of any interior defensive lineman. He's also got a pass rush win rate north of 20%, which is the best of any defensive lineman. The only 2 times in the PFF era, so the last 20 years, that a defensive tackle has had a season that hit both of those marks were 2018 Aaron Donald and 2021 Aaron Donald. So now you're being mentioned in the breath where it's you and the best defensive tackle to ever play the game. You're being mentioned in a breath where it's you and the probably going to be unanimous defensive player of the year who is probably about to set the single season sack record. If you're being mentioned with these guys, the context is you're playing one of the best seasons in the history of the organization. The only 2 players who have ever gotten a first place vote as Tennessee Titans for defensive player of the year are Javon Kearse and Alec Hainsworth.
Yep.
I don't know if Jeff's going to get a first place vote this year. Myles Garrett probably runs it. I don't know if you can split the vote with 2 guys on teams that are going to be picking in the top 5.
Right.
But Jeff is playing that good of a season that you have to put this year up there with 08 Cortland Finnegan, with 08 Hainsworth, with 99 Kearse, best defensive seasons in Titans history.
Yeah, it's what a remarkable season. I just really appreciate that he kind of showed up to camp and he was like, this is going to be different. And then he went out and did it. I think there's you get a lot of respect for like, I say I'm going to do something and then I'm going to do what I say. And I think that's I think he's turned into a player both in the locker room, off the field, and on the field of being mentioned like you just have. And I think he deserves all the credit for it. And just to kind of tie it in with Ruben Bain talk in the comments here, because Bain is, he is going to be on display against Ole Miss again. He was on display against Ohio State, and he was certainly on display against Texas A&M. He is a great football player. I don't know if he is a true pass rusher in the NFL. I don't.
Yeah, we'll see.
He can be. He could make a play. Here's what I do know about Ruben Bain. If you had him next to Jeffery Simmons and maybe some Devondre Sweat mixed in there, you'd have one of the best defensive lines in the league, period. It may not be great at pressuring the quarterback. It may not be great at getting after the passer. But my God, that would be a gnarly defensive line to go into battle, starting every game, knowing you are going to out-leverage the offensive line at least 3 to maybe 4 gaps on the offensive line. Like, you are going to win that battle almost every single week. And so you could do a lot worse than that. And I think, as much as I really like Carnell Tate, I don't like the pick of Carnell Tate in the top 5, top 6, top 8. I don't think he is the same player as the guys who will be available next year in that slot.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair.
I'm coming around on Bain and Bailey over any of the receivers, although I do love Mekhi Lemon. I just like him a little bit later. So.
I agree. I love Mekhi Lemon in the mid-first round. But, yeah, Bain, very high on that noticeability factor I mentioned earlier. Yeah. I don't want to be Billy Bean pointing at Kevin Euclid, but he gets on base.
That's exactly right.
Dude gets home. I don't care what he's shaped like. He gets home.
You cannot out leverage that guy. It is impossible. He will win the one-on-ones almost every time. And
if you guys want to read more about Jeffery Simmons, I did write something this week where I talked to a couple of the offensive linemen who have to block him every day in practice. And I feel like they're the guys who probably know why he's as good as he is. Yeah. So check out input from Corey Levin, from Peter Skoronsky, and from Jackson Slater about what it's like having to deal with that dude. It's very interesting.
Are you excited about the final weekend? Sinkers Beverages, by the way, please go check out Sinkers Beverages. Absolutely. They have non-alcoholic beer. They have mocktail recipes and mocktail, all the things you would need to make those recipes. And of course they have their THC corner where you can go get all kinds of things. If you are participating in Dry January, that they can still help you out with. So, Sinkers Beverages, 5-time liquor store of the year, craft beer, walk-in fridge, excellent service, and just a fantastic place to go shop. That there's a reason they've won the award. And sign up for the in-crowd. You can also have them deliver the booze if you want, or the other items that we've talked about. If you want to have them delivered to your house, you don't have to leave. Just search Uber Eats and have them delivered from Sinkers Beverages. So there you go. We do appreciate their support. One of the best local small businesses in the city. And I saw a bunch of you guys actually over the holiday. I saw a bunch of different listeners up there that are driving past other liquor stores to get there. And I really appreciate you guys for doing that. I think it's worth it. And they support the show. So I appreciate you guys supporting them. So, all right. I am, because so many slots are already filled up, which is all of them, basically in the NFL. Pittsburgh and Baltimore is great because it's just the intrigue around Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson and Rodgers and Tomlin. There's just there seems like there's drama on both sides all the way up and down the organizations, which is interesting to me. Certainly the NFC South is a total mess because the Falcons could still play a major role in all of this, which is insane to me. But everything's kind of settled in. Like, are you less excited about this weekend? Myles Garrett, you mentioned going for the sack record. We got Jeffery Simmons going for his number. Like, people are kind of like, I'm not excited about this weekend. Where are you at on this?
I am always excited for December, January NFL contests. They're very fun and very good. We have, for the first time in a long, long time, a completely indecipherable MVP race. Last year, it was pretty clear it was going to be Allen or Lamar. A lot of years, it's kind of sewed up. I think that the Rams losing last week kind of opened it back up where there are 3 or 4 guys who could be in this conversation.
I still think Stafford's the most valuable player. If you're using the phrase, right? Like,
yeah. There's arguments for a lot of dudes. Is a good.
Who else? Who else you got?
I think Drake May has an argument for it. I think the way that he's played down the stretch and the way that the Patriots are going back to running up the score, which is fun, reminds me of my childhood. I think that there has to, at a certain point, be some recognition for these guys like Herbert and Lawrence, who probably aren't MVP caliber, but are playing their teams very, very well.
I feel like Herbert, because it's the worst offensive line and the most pressured quarterback in the league, and the ability to run and the injuries in the backfield, I feel like Herbert is well ahead of Trevor Lawrence. But if the Jags win the division, it's hard to argue that he's not absolutely one of them. I think Herbert has been more indispensable with a lesser team, if that makes sense. I would go for Herbert over Lawrence.
By the definition of valuable, like you said with Stafford, I would probably go with Herbert over anybody, just on the fact that no running backs, no offensive linemen, and this team's 12-4, 11-5, somewhere around there. James Cook, not going to get much, but as an offensive player of the year candidate, heck of a year. Super impressed with the way he's been playing. Jackson Smith and Jigba is an offensive player of the year candidate. Those are some incredible numbers he's putting up. There's a lot of just individual stuff that's going to be fun to see in week 18. The intrigue of who's going to get the number 1 seed in both conferences. Neither are locked up. There's a lot to be excited about. The Chicago Bears.
AFC South Division Championship is still on the line.
The Chicago Bears are going to be in the playoffs. The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be in the playoffs.
That first one, we could ignore that first one.
This is incredibly, incredibly exciting. This is very fun.
I have not, just on a personal note, Nick, I have not had, because I'm largely dead inside from doing this for 22 years. Like, it takes a lot for me to get out of my chair watching anything, football or otherwise. I need to be like in an NFC Championship game for me to be like, or watch Pete Alonso hit a walk-off home run in like Game 5 of a playoff series for me to like truly go crazy and feel something. But man, the third quarter for the Packers against the Broncos, and then the following fourth quarter against the Bears, that is one of the worst 2-week stretches I've ever experienced in my life, Nick. I am not excited about the playoffs. Losing Parsons and the 2 games the way they did to the arch rival, I am not excited about the Packers in the playoffs.
My best friend from college, every single time that a Chicago Bears game reaches the fourth quarter, I text him, it's time for Caleb Williams to play in the fourth quarter. And then we just flip the game on and just watch Caleb Williams play in the fourth. We were joking about it. It's almost like Tim Tebow with arm talent, of just like, it's the fourth quarter, I'm a different player now. Right. Obviously, Caleb has immense talent, but it is kind of like that Tebow mania phenomenon from back in 2011 or whenever that was, of just, man, this dude
made one throw against the Ravens, and that's it.
Yeah, this guy will make the play when it matters, and that's really cool. Yeah. A lot of exciting stuff. I think this is going to be a fun playoffs. I think that the AFC is as wide open as it's ever been. I think that the NFC is a little bit top heavy, but there's 4 teams that really could beat the crap out of anybody, and that's not counting the defending Super Bowl champions who could always go on a run. A lot of good football. Excited for it.
Is it crazy to say that? I like the Rams and the Texans right now.
Not crazy at all.
I mean, the best defense and the best offense, probably, basically.
There is only one thing that I'm actively going to root for, and I don't know if it's possible, but I will actively be rooting for both LA teams to host the conference championship because I want to see how they do it.
Like on the same day.
Yeah, like the conference championship games are played back to back.
I don't think that's possible if they're both wild cards, right? You have to host like the 7 seed or something.
Yeah, there would have to be some like really strange dynamic to it.
Yeah.
But I would love to see SoFi
Yeah,
have
no, I hear
to
you.
like change the stadium over and change the locker rooms over, and
because normally it's like a 5-minute break.
yeah,
You get a 5-minute to 10-minute break between the
and,
NFC and AFC championship games,
and it's on the West Coast, so it's not like you can put it at 9 a.m. Pacific
right?
time. Like
Right.
it would be really really interesting to
You would
figure that
you
out.
would have to put like 2 hours in there, like a college basketball tournament game. You know, where you like, and then everything stays there, right? Like everything stays, like all the you have to like do half the core of Chargers, half to core Rams, and keep the building unchanged. You just have to like get people out of the building and then file them all back in with the new tickets. Is what you'd have to do, and just have like you'd have to have like AFC. You have to have like championship in both end zones. It just says championship.
But also, like, players arrive 3 hours before the next game. Like, what are you going to do with the team bus? The other team bus is still here. Like, how are the players going to get in the parking lot?
They have
the parking lot's full.
They have more than one tunnel at least at SoFi, unlike Buffalo, apparently.
Do they have 4? Like, I want to see how this happens. Practically, it is the only thing that will, like, short of there being a Super Bowl tie, which I know is impossible, nothing will get me as amped as stadium logistics.
Shawnee, I guess you automatically get this here if you're going to start donating money. If Chambliss comes out on the back of this CFP, where does he go? Does he crack the top 3, possibly upset the mocks? Are you talking about the draft? I don't know if he certainly has a ton of talent. I assumed he's coming back to Ole Miss, but you never know about the cost of this stuff. I don't see him too highly valued in NFL circles yet. Nick, I don't know about you.
I think that there is going to be a push to, if he comes out, look at him as, well, the talent is obviously something we can capture. I don't know. I really don't know. It's a weaker quarterback year. Could he rise up to QB3 or QB4? It'd be tough because of his size, but the playmaking ability is phenomenal. I have since he started at Ole Miss, he reminded me a lot of Kyler as a college player.
But bigger, yeah.
And could he have Kyler's ability to ascend despite being smaller? Sure. I don't think he's going to be the number 1 pick like Kyler was. But if that is the frame of reference you're starting from, there's a path for somebody like Kyler Murray to play in the NFL.
The throw where he rolled right yesterday in the fourth quarter and dropped it over the top on the run of the defender down the right sideline for like a 35-yard gain. One of the better throws I've seen from him all year. Yeah. Like this, and to do it in the moment where it happened, like they played such a great fourth quarter. Just a great fourth quarter. Offense, defense, him, the quarterback, like it was a really fun fourth quarter. They did a great job on that. So I don't know. First round seems like, is he more talented than Jackson Dart? I don't think he will grade out higher than Jackson Dart. I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. And
similar skill set, though.
And when I'm saying small, I'm not necessarily talking from a height perspective. I'm talking from a size. He plays small. He is not a sturdy football player. He's a great college quarterback. But let's see if he can be Kyler Murray. That's where we would start from.
And honestly, the game's going that we all know the game's gone that way. Are we going to come back to the 6'5" Fernando Mendoza stand in the pocket and be really, really smart kind of player? That guy, there's always a space for that guy to play in the NFL for sure. So
Mendoza reminds me a lot of Eli Manning.
A little bit.
For better and for worse. Reminds me a lot of Eli Manning.
Certainly the way he talks. Just the goofiest communicators ever. We're friggin' champs, Nick. He always does. He's always doing this too. When he talks, he's like, we just won in this place in the Rose Bowl. It's just so amazing. It's just such a beautiful place. The setting is here, and God is amazing. And I can't believe that Kurt Cignetti picked me. I can't believe it. I love you, Mom.
And on the flip side of this, I told this to some people yesterday. Dante Moore is the exact style of quarterback that I fall in love with every year, and I tend to be a bad evaluator of quarterbacks. So
he is so poised. He is so quiet in his movements and in his like everything. Everything about him is calm.
He is CJ Stroud.
I really appreciate that.
He has a very similar presence that CJ Stroud had.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's one of the few guys that I was right on.
a slightly better athlete, maybe not as tight of a thrower, but man, he throws a really good ball.
Yeah.
Dante Moore throws a really good ball.
The flip side of it is like I watch him, I'm like, oh, that might be CJ Stroud. And then I watch him, I say, oh, that might be Brett Hundley. And I loved Brett Hundley.
Hey,
I really loved Brett Hundley.
Maybe the best backup quarterback ad of all the ads of the backup quarterbacks. His ad is great. He walks in and the kid. Have you seen the one I'm talking about?
No, that's Tyler Huntley.
Oh, it's Tyler Huntley. Oh, Brett Hundley. You're talking about UCLA quarterback. All
yes,
right.
yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. Brett Hundley. Did he play for the Packers at one point?
He did.
Yeah.
I think he actually got a start
when Rodgers got hurt.
Rodgers got hurt. Yeah.
I was a big fan of his at UCLA, and
I liked him a lot too.
That style of quarterback, the slender, big arm, accurate, moves well quarterback. I fall in love with it.
Yeah. How dare you like a lot of amazing physical traits in your quarterback, Nick?
I do. I'm sorry. I'm wrong about a lot of stuff.
Well, and the processing thing is just so hard to quantify at quarterback. It's so hard to quantify when you can just process faster than everybody else and you know where to put the ball before everybody else does, or know at least what the defense is taking away from you so that you know what will be available before it happens. Those are the guys who play the chess game best are the ones who end up playing good ball. And then there's transformers like Josh Allen, where you're just like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you processed. He's just going to do something insane. Yeah. So
another guy who I liked, speaking of the opposite of that, Josh Rosen. I really liked Josh Rosen for all these same reasons.
I wouldn't say that in public.
No, again, I admit when I'm wrong about stuff.
Well, but
because I'm wrong about stuff a lot.
It's okay to say that. I do that all the time too. But man, that one, I don't know if I would say that one.
I liked Josh Rosen. I thought he was a really good quarterback.
Draw the line on that one. I really like Sam Darnold. I was really wrong, and then I was right, and now I don't know. So, all right. What you got on the website for everybody to read as the season's wrapping up on Sunday?
So I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but there's going to be a coaching search. There's gonna be a coaching search here in the next couple of days. So a lot. Stay tuned to the Tennessean as news will happen, maybe sooner than you think.
Oh, really? Okay. So I was
They're not going to hire somebody today. I'm joking.
I was talking about this with some other folks. There is a chance, in theory, that they cannot hire someone until after the Super Bowl or between the Super Bowl. Do what?
Yeah, that is correct. Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, how likely is that? Because you're looking at a coordinator for Houston, a coordinator for Jacksonville, a coordinator for the Niners, a coordinator for the Rams, a coordinator for the Chargers, all of whom could make a deep playoff run. Back to your point about how open it is. And that's just, I haven't even mentioned some other names yet. If Kevin, there's going to be a lot of more movement than I think, though. Like Arizona, Cleveland, potentially the Baltimore-Pittsburgh thing. There could be more movement than we expect from the other teams making moves. So that could also affect this as well.
So
Seattle also coordinators there.
Yeah. Without betraying too much of what I'm
hinting at,
reporting and hinting at and stuff, I think that the Titans candidate pool is deeper than people have been guessing.
Yeah.
It is my understanding that there are more names on the list than the small lists that are circulating from some of the insiders. That is not to say that the names on the insiders lists are incorrect. But I think that the lists are more expansive than that. And if you end up talking to as many people as I think the Titans will end up talking to, you will be able to fall in love with people who lose early in the playoffs. That doesn't mean they will mortgage the best candidate to hire somebody sooner. But I don't think they are choosing between 3 coaches. And if those 3 coaches go to the conference championship, they're screwed.
No, I agree with that. We did 23 names on our coaching candidate 1.0 show a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's still where we're at, right?
Oh, I think it's a little smaller than that. But
so 15, 16. Ballpark.
That's probably more fair to say.
I think if you take all of the 5-person lists that you find on the internet and put them all together, there'll be some overlap, and there'll be about 15 names. I think you can kind of get to that mark if you grab all the reports that are out there.
Yeah, expect a lot of interviews. That's all I will say. It's not going to be like this. I think the Saints search last year, they had formal interviews with like 3 people. I would not expect that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They can request the interview as soon as the season is over, and then there's like a 2-day cooling down period, right? Where like they can't start the interview process until Wednesday, right? When
so you can request as soon as the season ends. You can begin virtual interviews starting on Wednesday with anybody. You can only conduct the virtual interviews with candidates whose teams are in the wild card round up until 2 days before their game. So if they play on Saturday, you have to get it done by Thursday. If they play on Sunday, you have to get it done by Friday. I might be a little bit off on the timing, but it's essentially that.
Yeah.
If they have a bye, you can conduct it, I think, through the end of the wild card round. So you can do those Saturday, Sunday, Monday interviews with them, but you have to get it done after that fact. If their team is already eliminated or if they are unemployed, there is no restriction on when you can virtual interview them. And then in-person interviews can begin with people who have been eliminated starting after the divisional round. In-person interviews cannot begin with teams who are in the Super Bowl until after.
So quickly, the bye is probably going to be Seattle, which could include a couple of candidates in the NFC, which you're saying those can happen over the weekend because their game's not until. And then I guess there's a candidate. I'm not including Josh McDaniels as a candidate, so I don't think there's one for the Patriots, but maybe one for the Broncos, particularly.
Perhaps.
Perhaps. So there could be one for the Broncos. And then you're saying the wild card interviews has to happen basically Wednesday or Thursday, maybe Friday. And when you request the interview, it's when the end of that person's season or the end of your season?
That person's.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So like when the Seahawks season ends, you can request an interview with so-and-so.
So let's just use the 3 examples here that are the easiest way to set it up, or 4 examples rather. Mike McCarthy is unemployed. They can interview him whenever they want, starting Wednesday. Matt Nagy's season is over. They can interview him whenever they want, starting Wednesday. Jesse Minter coaches for a team that will be playing in the wild card round. If they want to interview him before the wild card round, they have to do it at least 2 days before his team plays their game. And if we're talking about somebody like Clint Kubiak, whose team will be potentially having that bye, you can get that done during wild card weekend because his team is not playing. I think you might have to. That might be the one thing I'm off on. You might have to get all interviews done before games begin on Saturday.
Gotcha.
That is the one thing that I would double check.
Okay,
but other than that, the procedure is essentially that.
Yep, there you go. And I do agree with Caribbean Daniel on this one, which you don't say very often. But Cam, Nashville, and all the cap space makes the Titans an attractive job. I think no income tax in the state of Tennessee, a new stadium coming. There's lots of reasons to look at Tennessee as a great job. There's only 32 of them, so they're all pretty good. But if you like what you see with Cam, there's a lot of other stuff around the team that makes it an attractive job. It's not just, everybody hates Amy Adams-Strunk because they don't trust her to not make a crazy rash decision. Like, that's not what people are looking at.
It's an attractive job for a coach looking to get their second chance. It's an attractive job for a coach who wants to build from the ground up. It is a less attractive job for somebody who wants to step in and compete immediately.
Who is on that last list?
I don't know personally. I can speculate. Okay. I don't necessarily think it's productive to speculate, but
I think you should speculate. Give me one speculative name. Is Chris Shula that kind of guy?
I wouldn't think so. I would think that the urgency for offensive-minded head coaches getting their first opportunity. So Joe Brady would be somebody who I'd point to of like, if you're an offensive coach and you're probably going to get one opportunity to do this, don't put your one opportunity on the Titans.
Unless you think Cam is the guy, like the dude. Yeah. I agree with that. All right. Sinkers Beverages, of course. Appreciate all of you in the comments, man. You guys are great. Happy New Year to everybody out there. Hope you guys had a safe one. Amateur hour on Wednesday night always can be dangerous. So hope everybody had a great one. Hope your dogs are recovered from all the fireworks. Hope everybody's good. Great college football playoff. Great final weekend in the NFL. And can't wait for playoff football to continue for the next month. It's going to be a ton of fun. We got coaching search ongoing very, very soon. You've got probably more moves coming in the NFL. You've got Senior Bowl coming. You got draft coverage. So 440 Sports, please check all of Nick's work out at Tennessee, but also all the other stuff across the 440 network as well. So appreciate you guys. Nick, always a pleasure, my guy. We safe travels down to Jacksonville, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening, everybody. Peace and love.